Hello, everybody, and welcome to Decluttr Me, a podcast about organizing and decluttering your life. And hello, Shelina.
Hi, Shrek. How are you?
I'm good. So we've been tweaking our setup from a couple of weeks ago when our cameras were a little bit off.
Yes.
But hopefully this is a little bit better this time. And
Yeah. And we're facing each other. We're getting closer
yeah,
again.
yeah, we're working through this
Yeah.
entire process. Okay, so over the last few weeks, we've been talking to a number of different guests, or you've been talking to a number of different guests on a wide variety of topics around decluttering. But there's been a bit of a common theme as well, which is the mental health aspect of decluttering, right? So you've spoken to guests who have been helping people who have mental health issues, and they've been and how to declutter and how to avoid things like hoarding and so on in those circumstances. And then also a little bit about just the mental impact of having clutter in your life and what that does to a person and so on and so forth. Right? So today I think we kind of wanted to talk about a little summarizing kind of what we've gotten from all of our really, really awesome guests.
Yes.
Talked a little bit about your experience as well in terms of what you see when you're going around helping your clients out.
Yeah. I thought as well, it was interesting talking to Anita last week. And, she talked about the different types of depression. And I found out that I had the depression that she deals with a lot, which is not the reactive one. It's the other one, which I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to say it. No, I can't pronounce it.
It's okay.
No, that's just not brother. You know what it is. It's the other one.
Yeah.
Which is, and I've had depression for many, many years now, and I'm not shy about talking about it. And I have medicine for it as well. So I am as normal as I can be, which is not a lot, not very compared, from what my friends say. But, it was interesting to hear how that kind of depression can affect people. And then also to talk about anxiety. And I do see anxiety with a lot of clients that they, due to, various things, I deal with a lot of clients who have dealt with grief, divorce, loss of job, moving, especially being an expat is, people don't realize, living in a foreign country, dealing with cultural differences, and all the things that we have to deal with can bring anxiety to a lot of people. And, especially if you're on your own, even if you're with family, it can be an anxious sort of situation. Then adding that on top of that, dealing with kids, 2020 has just been an anxious year as well. So all of that can accumulate and bring on the anxiety, the depression, and, other mental health issues. So that was good to talk about and to hear and to, and I could relate in so many ways, seeing it with clients and with myself.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that too, which is what I was going to add, right? I mean, all the things that you mentioned as individual things that can be extremely tough on somebody and can create a lot of problems. We're in a year where kind of everything's happening, to a lot of people. So when you're talking about moving, we're talking about leaving jobs, losing jobs, relationships being affected. And then of course, moving countries at this point, right? Like it's been such an emotional experience. I mean, 2020 as a whole. I don't honestly know anybody that's not dealing with some level of mental health impact because of what's been going on. Either it's because it's happening to them, or it's happening to their friends or family or somebody around us. So I think it was kind of also one of the reasons why we looked at saying, and when we've had a bit of a mental health focus over the last couple of years on the show, right? We've kind of been talking about it from time to time. But I think this was one of the reasons why we kind of focused on these people to say, look, let's kind of have a little bit more open conversations about some of these things, and also put into, I think it's both sides. So you put into perspective what could be happening, but also, as you mentioned, right, like in the course of the conversation, you discover like, oh, okay, that's what I have suffered.
Yeah.
And I think if it's something that you can relate to, I think it's important that you identify that, because that's how you can then look to address it at the very least. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, I think, a lot of the clients that I deal with do have the same type of depression I have, because I've seen they take the same medicine as I do. But they haven't been able to deal with, certain elements of their day-to-day life, which is, what Anita talked about, and that's how she helps a lot of people with these mental health issues, and that's how I help as well. So it's, that's something for our listeners to think about, that you're not alone. There are a lot of people like you who are suffering, and if you can't, you can't keep all the balls up in the air, that's not a problem. There's somebody out there to help you, whether it's a psychologist, psychiatrist, an organizer, a therapist. You know, there's different people. There's doctors to give you medicine, you know, if you need it. So take advantage of that and don't hide from it. You know, if you get some help, help yourself, do some self-care for yourself. It will, it might help to alleviate the anxiety and, the depression. It might not remove the depression completely. That's why we have to have medicine, but it will help you to clear, other elements of your life. And I think clearing some of these elements, helps. And then decluttering helps you remove the clutter cloud. And it's a circle. You remove the clutter, you remove the anxiousness. So if you want to, so you can just go around and around and doing, thinking about that as well.
And I think it's important as well that, most countries recognize these problems are existing, especially in 2020. I know because we follow the news in a lot of different countries because, again, we are a very expat heavy population out here, so we do get to hear a lot. And you find in a lot of countries, individual governments and stuff who have all obviously been enforcing or trying to enforce lockdowns and trying to make all of this work and completely understandable, have also now been putting energy behind making people aware that, hey, here are some resources you have access to, and so on and so forth. So I think one of the things I would definitely say is, just look for it, because I'm sure there's a very high probability that there are some resources, some of them, depending on where you live, maybe even potentially free, at least initial consultations, that could be very helpful to you to help. And just even sometimes as simple as talking to someone, right? Because it can be so therapeutic. I mean, I know that among my friends, we've really run through a therapeutic circle almost. I mean, you and me have had many conversations as well, and I've done that with other people as well. And sometimes it's for me, sometimes it's for them. It really varies. But the important thing is just acknowledging that, look, we are living in and it's a very overused word, but a very unprecedented time. And so it's okay to be feeling something, and it's okay to look to how to address it, right? So.
And there are a lot of, here in the UAE, there's a government helpline to call if you have any mental health issues currently. There's also Lighthouse Arabia, who we have talked to, Dr. Sliha, before. They're giving away, not giving away, but they're having free sessions for people as well on various issues, related to daily life.
Yeah, and when she was on the show as well, she mentioned a lot of these group therapy sessions that they kind of initiate to try and help people work through things together. And so if, of course, we'll leave a link in the show notes if you want to get a sense of what they're like and how they're set up. But definitely encourage people that are living in Dubai to check them out.
And you can, I think it's international as well because it's on Zoom. So these group sessions are great. And then there's like Good Samaritans in the UK, and I'm sure the Samaritans in America, and there's in different places. There's all these kind of facilities to help you. But the main thing I think was to recognize that you're not alone and that these things do happen, but it's learning how to deal with it and to know that maybe you need to do it in small steps. So and people, I've realized people living this year, being in lockdown, have seen the clutter more. And have maybe made them more anxious and more overwhelmed than they would normally, because usually they could run away from it. And it also has made people want to go out and buy more online because you can do that. I mean, what else are you going to do at home? There's only so many jigsaws you could do or watch Netflix. So people were buying. So that's added.
And we talked about that too. I mean, we talked about it from the other point of view of like all this extra packaging that we're all stuck with and so on. But when you look at you've discussed we've talked about on the show previously that shopping is a way people deal with one of these things, right? Like just back in the day, retail shopping, right? And that's when we talked about rules like buy one get rid of two kind of thing. But when you're now stuck, a lot of us were not able to have those outlets.
No,
right?
Exactly.
So many people, I know a lot of people did a lot of online shopping. Some of it was need based, of course, like we had to shift our shopping and avenues online. But when you look at the recent news about how the Amazon revenues have changed over the last 3 months alone, tells you what has changed in terms of consumption habits of people, right? In terms of how they've been shopping online. And of course, a lot of it is need-based, groceries and those kind of things because you can't step out. But then a lot of it is also like, it's so easy to buy stuff online. We've talked about it in the past as well, right? It's one-click pays and, all of that. So,
Exactly.
so that became how people, I think, have sort of, like I said, have let that outlet out. And I think it's so important that we're mindful of that.
Yeah. And if you've, have done a lot of shopping and then haven't been able to declutter, that, apologies for the little cat who's joined us. So, it can, you might feel a bit anxious now. So, think about ways to, start doing the mini decluttering. Spend the 10, 15 minutes going through your stuff, seeing what you can get rid of. So, because you now can go out in most countries, you can leave and go to charity shops because they're open again, or leave them in bins, or give them to people. There's so many sites now. There's people who are, suffering right now because they've lost jobs, can't go back to their home country, etc. So, go on those free cycle Facebook groups, or we have one called Free Me UAE, where you can give stuff for free, and give that stuff away if you're not bothered about making money, but you just want to get rid of it out of your life. And people will take the stuff straight away, but at least it'll make you feel better, and also it will make you get rid of the stuff and have less stuff in your house. And if you do the mini declutter every day, 10, 15 minutes for a week, you can clear a lot of stuff in one room, or even two. That's a good way to start.
Was there anything among the different guests that we spoke to that you stood out for you? I mean, I know you mentioned Anita, but how about Sarah? Or was there a piece of advice that you felt like was just really very relevant for the current time?
I think they all gave amazing tips. So, with Kate with her time management and her apps, and saying, even the tasks, putting them into the calendar was a great idea. I mean, I separate them. I have a to-do list and I have a calendar. And, for her saying that, and I mean, because I'm very organized, that obviously I've got that habit to do that. But then her suggestion doing that, I was like, that's actually a really good idea. And I have started doing that. So I'm putting the little tasks into the calendar. So for 15 minutes, I just do this task. And it actually does make it easier because you've got one less step to do. And that leads to Sarah, who talks about ADHD, and, you have to have less steps to do something. So, you don't, instead of opening a wardrobe door and then a drawer, just have bins and put stuff in, and have this system, the Kanban system as well. And the same applies for disabilities. So Lisa was talking about disabilities, and they have to have less steps as well, because they need to make it as easy as possible for them to do what they need to do, right? So all of it has led to me realizing that we're all, my ethos is, can you find something in 5 seconds? So you have to find it as quickly as possible and as easily as possible. And all of us have different ways of talking about it, but it's the same, discussion, that we want to make it as simple as possible for our clients. We want to make it, whether it's people use boxes instead of shelves or whatever, we're going to do that. So I do apologize for my cat who's decided to join us today. He's very curious. So, and that was fascinating with all of the clients that they had. Not with the clients, with our guests, that they had that. All of them had these different methods, but they all link to the same methodology to make it as simple as possible, and to help people to reduce the anxiety, to not to feel so frustrated, and to remove that clutter cloud eventually.
So I think our key message as well, I think in all of this is, hey guys, like, you're not alone. Yeah. So definitely reach out to resources you have in your city, in your countries. There always will be. And I think there's been a good rise, thankfully, over the last 6 months for these kind of resources. So don't feel like there's nothing that you can reach. And then your tip, I guess, is, and which mimics what a lot of the guests were saying as well, is to try and keep things simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Look at doing small things repeatedly, and hopefully that'll help prevent the kind of clutter, because I know that I've experienced it over this lockdown as well, where it's just so easy to be like, oh, this is fine, just get the box, and suddenly, I was sitting with 15 boxes in my living room, and then just looking at that made me feel like terrible, right? So
and do the mini declutter, take it into one of those shopping bags that you get, fill it all up, go down to the recycle bin straight away, or put it in your car to take it for recycling, so you get it out of the house. And if you don't have a car, just put it in the hallway, ready to go out. But, do that step to make it easier for you moving forward. And it's the same for everything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's it for that's what we wanted to talk about this week, is to kind of just do a little bit of a recap with some of our guests and kind of talk about some of the key messages I think we learned out of. So that's it for this episode, at least. As always, you can contact Shelina if you want to get to know more and you want to talk a little bit more with her, especially about the Clutter Cloud and how the mental health impact that you might be feeling, which you can do by finding her on social media at Decluttr Me. That's DECLUTTRME. We'll be back next week with a very interesting topic, men. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.